to go for a few questions here now. Um, from Jessica Grant, what happens if you don't meet the 15-day timeline? And I'm not sure if that was in reference to the registration process, but could you speak to that? Have we missed that deadline yet?
No, I'll speak to it really quick. So I don't know if Dr. Milner, you've seen this, but my understanding is that again, you might have to start the process over again, or potentially have to appeal it with Medicare. So it just ends up delaying. I don't think it means that you'll never get approved. It's just really it's going to delay you being able to bill and collect on your tests.
Thanks, Ann. This has received a lot of votes, and I'm not sure if it's something we can address here today, but for a multi-organism panel, do we need to register by analyte or organism, or should we be registering as a panel? Would that maybe be one to
I would, yeah,
send us
Dr.
a
Milner,
question
I don't know
directly
if you
on?
can answer that. I would say if you're running it as a panel, it needs to be registered as a panel. So the LCD, the guidance, a panel is considered if you're testing for one or more pathogens or analytes.
Yeah, agree. And then I think the question was organism or analyte. And so whatever target you're using. So if it, yeah, so you want to do it by target, but within the panel. So you have to register the way that it's ordered. So if you've got several panels, and Anne, correct me if I'm wrong, but several panels that are related that might have some overlapping analytes on there, you still have to do a separate test registration for every orderable panel.
Correct. You are correct. And the way I envision it is, again, if you go into the MolDx, the diagnostic exchange, all of your tests will be visible within that platform. So however you're presenting that to your clients or to patients, again, that's how you want to register.
Great, thank you both for that one. From Ms. Jameson here, after the technical assessment process, will they approve which CPT codes are to be used for billing?
I'm going to step in really quick. As far as I want everybody to understand the process for CPT codes within MolDx. So once you register your test, you will receive a Z code, and you will also receive a CPT code from MolDx. Most likely, if it is the UTI wound, if you're doing a STI testing, I'm trying to think of the one other one that doesn't have the panel code, but they will require you to bill with 87999, the unlisted. MolDx will provide you the appropriate CPT code that they want you to bill with, along with the Z code. You will no longer be able to stack. So the way that most labs I know are probably doing this prior to this LCD is that they were billing with the individual CPT codes for the pathogens that they could identify that had a CPT code, and then using the 87798. That will be going away. MolDx will assign a CPT code, and you must put that on your claim with the appropriate Z code, because that all links back to the test that you registered and the reimbursement and coverage that they assigned.
Thanks, Ann.
Mm-hmm.
Think we've got time for a couple more here, so I'm gonna. Are nail and wound panels going to require Z codes?
Yes. Per the LCD, it really talks specifically about the LDTs and if it's an FDA approved, and they really go into the respiratory, the GI, and there's a handful of other, but I'm going to pick on respiratory and GI. Respiratory and GI have the CPT panel codes assigned. And so you would use respiratory 87631 to 87633, dependent on the number of pathogens within that panel. There's already a panel CPT code included. If you look in the language within the local coverage determination, again, if you're running a panel and it does not have a panel CPT, which would be UTI wound, STI, and nail, then it should be coded at the 87999, which unfortunately, folks, that's going to require the Z code. So if you're running the the UTI, wound, STI, and nail fungal, regardless of the panel size, you will need to go through the process of getting a Z code. If you are running a respiratory, GI, and there's a couple of other tests within the LCD. If you have questions on those, it's really respiratory and GI that I'm going to target on this call today. Those, if you are running an FDA approved 3 to 5 pathogen panel, it does not require a Z code. But if you are doing an LDT for a respiratory, you will be required to get a Z code. If you are unsure if you need a Z code, please let us know and we'll help walk that through, walk it back with you and figure it out.
It's a great explanation there. Thanks for getting into the weeds a bit, Anne. And then just to wrap it up here, I think we're gonna kind of combine a couple questions that I've seen, and look forward at MolDx and what may be coming down the pike. But when might this be applied to NGS, and when might we see the MolDx program in general expand nationally?
Again, I feel like I look at my crystal ball and try to guess this, and I would have thought that more would roll into the MolDX platform by now, simply because, again, this is a way that Medicare can rein in the utilization of these tests. I feel like this infectious disease has been primarily some data mining. We've seen the evolution of testing, especially with COVID. We had a lot of labs get into COVID, and that was like a natural projection or progression to go into infectious disease. So within the last couple of years, we've seen a huge spike, or the payers have seen a huge spike in spending toward infectious disease. So rolling this through the MolDX, it gives them its data mining. They're able to look at what everybody's doing and start to develop policy and best practices surrounding this testing. It is a really again from a operational perspective for Medicare. To me, it makes sense. I am surprised that we haven't seen more go through. But what we will see, and I will put money on it, Alex, we will see that within the next couple of years, Novitas, First Coast, and NGS, even if they don't develop or roll into MolDX, they will develop their own policy. And folks, it might be even harder to achieve, simply because with the MolDX, at least you go through this technical assessment piece and you get your Z code. So it's really then doing the heavy lifting up front. Whereas going through the Novitas and trying to figure out what they mean in their local coverage determination and what they will pay for, it does leave a lot of misinterpretation and assumptions that unfortunately we end up seeing on the back end with denials and trying to appeal. So I do expect, and we do see that there's been most recently a new LCD proposal within Novitas for GI panels. So be on the lookout for that. If you haven't seen that, let me know. We have a nice write-up on it. And again, expect that we will see the same for, NGS and First Coast. So although not rolling into MolDX, we're going to see further development of policy for infectious disease with the non-MolDX MACs. I guarantee it.